We're gonna start this video off with something completely insane. You are betting $1 million for LeBron James to hit a basket from anywhere on the court. You just wanna make sure that you win that $1 million. So how do we do it? So in my last video, I talked about how there's a ton of NBA data that's just generated constantly, and we can use this information to exploit the inner workings of basketball and perhaps do something as insane as winning $1 million bet off of some likelihood or unlikelihood that LeBron James can hit a shot. And so while it's no surprise that LeBron is one of the greatest basketball players of our generation, that doesn't necessarily guarantee that he's going to knock down the bucket when you and I need it the most. As a matter of fact, his career shooting percentage is right around 50%. So it's like betting $1 million on flipping a coin. Doesn't make sense to do it. But if we look at the data and his career shooting information, we might find that we actually have a better chance than we think we do. So let's dig a little bit deeper into this. Shooting data in the NBA is present for every player in almost the history of the entire league. And what you'll find from watching the game or looking at the stats is that different players will have different shooting styles and different preferences for how they play the game. They might shoot with the right hand or shoot with the left hand. They may prefer long range shots, or they might prefer to play in the paint right close to the rim. And some of the more exceptional players in the league tend to show up more in the playoffs than other players do. But we're not here to talk about any of that. What we're here to talk about is how can we guarantee that we're going to win $1 million by placing a single bet on a single shot in the NBA. And I'll tell you exactly how I tried to do that. Just to keep it simple, there was two major criteria that I cared about in this experiment. One, where on the court are you? Are you close to the basket? Are you far away? Are you from the corner? Where are you? Two, what is the stage of the game? Is it the first quarter, the end of the first half? Is it final seconds of the fourth quarter? Those two criteria are the information I wanted to capture for this experiment, because I believe, and it's an assumption that I'm making, I believe that these two combinations, time and space, are going to determine what the player is going to do exactly to make sure that they hit a shot. And I also make the assumption that there are patterns, depending on the stage of the game and where the player is taking the shot from, that will increase or decrease the likelihood of them making a shot. So to talk a little bit about the science behind this, we're using a machine learning technique called gradient boosted trees. I'll throw an example on screen for what one looks like, but the essence of what's going on here is that those 5 categories or data points that I just mentioned, those are going to be input as features, we call them, into the gradient boosted tree. And what the algorithm is going to do, we're talking about LeBron James here, we're going to take all of LeBron's career shots, both the ones he made and the ones that he didn't make, and extract these 5 data points from them. 6 if you want to separate X coordinates and Y coordinates. And so what this algorithm does is that it learns the patterns among these data points and sees, okay, if LeBron's at this position on the court and there's this much time left in the game, he's very likely to make a shot or he is very unlikely to make a shot. We just want to find out those scenarios where he is most likely to make a shot, and then we'll bet our $1 million when he's at that location at that specific time. And so if you're new to data science or you're getting started with machine learning and you want to learn more about gradient boosted trees, I highly recommend you check out the blog post I wrote on this, and also find some resources in the description for how you can learn more about the math and science and AI behind all of this. So what I like about gradient boosted trees is that they're both easy to understand in concept and also easy to explain once you actually have some kind of analysis. The graphic I showed up on screen earlier, we'll flash it again real quick now, will show you what exactly you need to do to traverse down this tree to figure out, is this a highly likelihood scenario where a shot's going to be scored, or an unlikely scenario a shot's going to be scored. The best way I found to visualize this is just by throwing up an image of a half court and then plotting all the spots where LeBron James should take a shot from. I found that the most interesting graph was around the 70 percentile marker range, which means that any dot on this chart means that LeBron James is 70% likely or more to make this shot. And we'll throw it up now. So you'll see a big blue splotch, maybe a tiny splotch towards the bottom. This represents just over 600 unique scenarios where LeBron can take a shot and score a basket with 70% likelihood. You'll see that everything is right under the rim, which for LeBron is not too hard to believe. He is 6'9", 250 pounds, and I think throughout his entire career, he has had very little trouble driving straight to the basket and hitting anything from a layup to a vicious dunk on somebody. And so yes, LeBron is a good perimeter shooter. I don't want to take that away from him, but we're talking $1 million on the line here. So we have to take the shots that are going to count the most. Oh, and before I forget, the time that he needs to take these shots is between 1 minute and 30 seconds left on the clock and 5 minutes and 7 seconds left on the clock. These are going to be the best times for him to take that shot right from underneath the rim. That's going to be as the clock begins to wind down. This is in any quarter of the game. The clock begins to wind down and the pressure starts to heat up. That's when you want to put that $1 million on the line for LeBron James to take that shot. So that gives us our first answer. If you wanted to put $1 million on the line for LeBron James to make a shot in the basketball game, you want to do it when he's right under the rim with 1 minute and 30 seconds left up to 5 minutes and 7 seconds left on the clock. That will give you a 70% likelihood chance of him making a shot, despite his career shooting average of only 50.4%. That said, however, what if we wanted to place our bets on a different player, perhaps? Well, lucky for you, I ran this experiment for two other prolific shooters in the NBA. That's going to be Kevin Durant and Steph Curry. Let's flash up Kevin Durant's charts. So looking at the guy, KD is a tall dude, and with a similar stature to LeBron James, he's obviously also going to have very little trouble driving straight to the basket. You'll see a lot of his shots concentrated right underneath the rim as well. But as the easy money sniper does, he can also take a couple perimeter shots with very high accuracy as well. As you can see, he can even have some three-pointer shots with 70% likelihood. You know, KD does as KD does. But the interesting part I found here was that if you want Kevin Durant to take that shot for that $1 million, you want to do it with between 5 minutes and 33 seconds left on the clock, down to 2.8 seconds remaining, with a 70% chance of hitting that bucket. That's a clutch shooter right there. Now we're gonna take a look at Steph Curry. And the first time I ran the code and plotted the charts and looked at everything, I couldn't believe what I saw at first. But here it is. These are the shots that Steph Curry can take where he has at least a 70% chance of hitting those shots. Absolutely outrageous. He can hit shots up close, from mid-range, and deep outside of the perimeter. He's a mastermind of shooting, and if anything, if you just started this video and skipped to just looking at the plots or just went straight to Steph Curry, nothing else needs to be said. That just shows that he's an even better shooter than we thought he was before. And so this chart represents 613 unique scenarios where Steph Curry can take a shot with at least a 70% chance of making the basket. The even crazier part than the fact that he can shoot from anywhere is that if you wanted to place your bet on Steph Curry, $1 million on the line, he has to make a shot. You want him to shoot from basically anywhere that's in bounds, and you want it to be between 11 minutes and 53 seconds down to 0.8 seconds. That is the entire quarter, which basically means that is any time throughout the entire game, Steph Curry can shoot from anywhere reliably and expect to hit it 70% of the time. Now, there are some technicalities here. We have to discuss those, because what you should not do is go out and place a bet that Steph Curry is going to hit a shot from anywhere on the court. Steph Curry's shooting percentage is actually lower than LeBron James. We're talking about career shooting. His shooting average is about 47.6% compared to LeBron James's 50.4%, right? So historically speaking, Steph Curry is less likely to make a basket than LeBron James. But according to the machine learning model, he is more likely to. Let me explain. There are a lot of quantified and unquantified values that are not represented clearly in this model. Some examples include contested shots. You can have anywhere from 0 to 5 defenders guarding you on any attempt to make a basket. And if you're a smaller guy like Steph Curry that's known to land threes consistently, chances are someone is always going to be guarding you whenever you're about to take a shot. Another example is injury history. If you're coming off of a foot or hand injury, or really any kind of injury, you may be hesitant to take certain kinds of shots in certain kinds of scenarios, even if it is your dominant side. So if we were truly to get a more representative model that's going to tell us exactly what shots are most likely to be hit, We'd have to do all kinds of studies into the mentality of a player given their current circumstances. We could also have some physiology studies for what are their wrist angles and shoulder angles and how high are they jumping off of the floor. Remember, we're talking about professional sports here, and so any scenario that doesn't make sense in the context of that sport isn't going to make sense. But at the end of the day, we can kind of play a little bit with the numbers and dig deeper into exactly what's going on behind the scenes and still get a little bit of insights that get us a little bit closer to maybe doing something crazy like betting $1 million and winning it all. So with that said, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something new. I hope you learned something useful, and I hope to see you around on the next one. This is Christoph signing off.